Is it Paige or is it Geno? I mean, that seems to be a theme with UConn basketball, and perhaps it's overblown simply because Paige is having a solid season, and Geno Auriemma has won a lot of games, a lot of championships at UConn. Nonetheless, there's a level of frustration there, and I've covered it specifically because the Huskies have not looked like a dominant team. They've lost their biggest matchups of the season thus far, and Paige has not looked like a dominant player. Let's use efficient as the key word. And that was the word that Geno Auriemma harped on once again in an article I read. And this is a piece. I don't know. Carl Ademick is the name of the writer. It was Connecticut Insider. And I don't know if this, exactly when the quotes were, but they were included in the article. So I'm assuming recently new here. And I found them very interesting. This is at the bottom of it. I'll let you read them yourself too. I'd like to see her be a little more free and experiment a little more, Auriemma said. She values this efficiency thing. I'd like to see her take more risks, but that's always the case with me and our best players. I don't want them to worry about being perfect. And this is really a piece about how Paige is pacing very well compared to UConn greats with their numbers. So don't get it twisted. This was a positive piece meant to be positive about Paige's achievements and her ranking within the hierarchy of the Husky greats. But I found that little note from Auriemma to be interesting simply because I've noticed from the Paige fans, a lot of them seems to be like, the blame is on Geno for taking the ball out of her hands. And that quote itself is not necessarily, contradictory to that idea, I guess, because you could still say, she doesn't have the ball in her hands enough, and that's how it's limiting her. And, she can't do what he's asking her to do without more opportunities. But the way you hear it talked about, it's as if Paige is being asked to play within a system only, a system only, a system only. And the way Geno says it there, it seems like Paige is way more worried about her efficiency than he is. And the greatest players, not to say they shouldn't be worried about their efficiency and they shouldn't think about their shot selection at all. Obviously, that is something that should factor in with anybody, right? Like, it's not odd for a player to care about their shot selection. And sometimes it annoys me because I'll see LeBron James does this. And I think I've seen Caitlin Clark do this, not shoot the ball at the end of a quarter when they could just heave it up. And they're probably thinking about their field goal percentage. But generally, the greats, when it's time to take over a game, aren't thinking about how efficient they can be. They're thinking, how can I put my imprint on this game? How can I make sure my team doesn't lose? And I don't think it's a great or healthy notion to Paige Bueckers for her to be constantly obsessed with her efficiency in a sense, especially when you got the head coach saying he wants her to experiment more, wants her to take more risks, wants her to not worry about being perfect. Because when he says that's what he thinks with his best players not being perfect, to me, that's him saying she beats herself up if she's not perfect. And there is a phrase, a saying that I like a lot: perfect is the enemy of good. And when you're trying to be perfect, sometimes you can realize or fail to realize what is good. And I think it would be good for UConn if Paige Bueckers did follow that advice from Geno Auriemma and played into creativity and aggressiveness and killer instinct more so than efficiency. Now, she does need the ball to do that. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not privy to their game plans. I'm going to have to watch more of their games as the season goes along. I've watched a lot of their games so far this season. But I did find it noteworthy to hear Auriemma note that, considering the criticism that has come his way.